Hey developers, and welcome to a brand new episode of the How to Make an RPG in Unity tutorial series. Now in today's episode, we're going to be creating a consumable system as well as creating a saturation bar for our player. So we're going to be able to eat stuff and pick up stuff that we can eat, and in order to heal ourselves. So I have a couple of ideas of how we're going to achieve this. First, we can either have we might have a vendor who sells, food items. But for now, we're just going to have create an item that you can eat. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna create just a very simple food item that will be on the ground that we'll be able to eat. So yeah, let's get right into it. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're going to go into our objects, and you can see we have a wooden sword. So if we create a new object, I believe that so this is just this is for weapons only. So what we need to do is first of all, let's find a good food pack. So I'm just gonna go to the asset store, and I'm going to try to find a good food asset. Alright, so I do have two different assets. So we have a free food mixed asset and a asset for icons. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna import and download and import these two assets into our game. Of course, I have a link in the descriptions below for where you can get these assets. But yeah, anyways, these two assets will be down in the descriptions below. So I'm just going to download that, and I'm also going to download this, the icon pack. And once it's finished downloading, I will import it into my project. Yep, now we're just going to import all of these foods. We're also going to import this. And after this finishes importing, we're going to import the free food icon. So we're just going to import this. Of course, these are all free assets that you can find online. And if you guys want better assets, then I suggest you guys go and buy some assets. Because honestly, these are great as far as free assets go, but they're not the best. So, okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to go to prefabs, and we're going to find an asset that suits our needs. So I was thinking of perhaps, okay, so let's start with some bread. So I believe there might be some bread here. So no bread, okay, so apparently there's no bread. Guess we're just gonna start with a potato. So we're just gonna delete these two. We don't need that, or sorry, let's keep them. But let's create a new prefab here in our prefabs folder, and we're gonna call this potato. And now we can go back into Unity, and if we drag this on the ground, you can see it's huge. So we're just gonna set this to be like 0.1, 0.1 by 0.1. And if we apply that to the prefab and add a box collider and a rigid body, it'll be able to fall to the ground when it spawns. So we can also apply these assets. So now if we go into the game, you can see that we have a potato on the ground that we can kick around, which is pretty cool. So yeah, so we're just gonna make it so that we can pick up this potato and essentially be able to eat it. So, well, first we're gonna have to transfer it to our hotbar. But anyways, what we're gonna do now is you can see in our hotbar we have, let's go to our player data. You can see in our hotbar we have a bunch of object data. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna create a new object, and we're just gonna say object type, and we're gonna call this potato. And we're gonna create a new folder called consumable, and we're gonna drag the potato in here as well as that. And then what we're gonna do is for the sprite, we're gonna find a potato sprite from the food icons pack. So we can come down here, or no, not the FPS icons, the food icons. Where's the, there we go. And actually what we can do is for this, we can open the sprite editor. Okay, well I guess it's not a 2D project, so we can't. Okay, this is interesting because I don't know if, okay, there we go, there's all the foods. So basically You can see they're kind of interesting, these icons. I'm gonna see if there's a potato icon. If there's not, we can just find one online. You know what? I'm too lazy to find one online, so I'm just going to be using what looks like a potato. I guess they all kind of look different from potatoes. You know what? This looks like a potato. Okay, this is gonna be our potato, and the prefab will be. So let's just make the prefab right now. So what we're gonna do is we're going to be dragging our potato into our player and making it 0 by 0 by 0. And then we're gonna go to our player and we're gonna drag the potato out so our player can see it. And this is where our potato is going to be at. And yeah, so we can just apply the prefabs. Or we can just make this a new prefab, or a prefab variant. And then, so you can see here the position here is set to be like so, and the position here is set to be in another way. So for this potato, instead of being having a rigid body, we're just going to remove that, and it's not going to have a box collider. So we're just also going to remove that. So this potato is just going to be a fake potato, basically. Yeah. So now what we can do is we can rename this from potato variant to be eatable potato. Also potato around there. And I'm just gonna drag this in here to the weapon prefab. We should probably rename these to be like item prefab and the ground item, but whatever. And this will be the ground item. And obviously there's no attack speed, and obviously there's no attack damage because it's a potato. So now what we need to do is, I forgot how we made the ground items, so I'm just going to go into our weapons and small dagger ground item. I believe this, no, that's not the ground item. This is the ground item. So no, that's the weapon. So this is the ground item. Okay, this is interesting because there's no script to it. I don't know. Oh, there it is. There's a script. Okay, so it does have a potato script for ground items. Okay, so we're gonna make a script inside of our ground item. We're gonna make a cube over it, like so. We're also just gonna do this, and then we can make this 3 by 3 by 3, or 8 by 8 by 8. You know what? Let's make it 10 by 10 by 10, and then we can just turn off the mesh collider, sound is trigger, and add the ground item script. And then the trigger text will be obviously the trigger text, which is, I believe that is taken care of. I don't believe we don't need to drag in the trigger text. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe we need to. So let me just double check, because it's always good to double check when you're game developing. So you can see here, trigger text is equal to data.triggerText, which is already set. Okay, cool. Yeah, so we don't need to. So what we can do is, yep, okay, that's good. Potato, and the pickup item is right here, and the parent, what is the parent? I forgot what the parent should be. Destroy parent. Okay, good. So the parent is the potato. And now, if we delete this potato and drag in a potato ground item inside the game, you can see here that when we press play, we should be able to pick up the potato. And now we have a potato. Unfortunately, the potato is out of place, so we need to just make sure that it is in place. You know what? Let's delete this because I don't like how that looks. So I'm just gonna drag this into the player, center it, unpack it as a prefab. I'm gonna drag the game in front so I can see where our potato will end up. And this should be like so. I think that looks good. I'm probably just gonna raise it up a bit and rotate it forward. Now we have a potato that we can eat. And yeah, nothing else much. I think, okay, yeah, so that looks pretty good in my opinion. I'm just gonna drag that in, delete that. And in here, I'm just gonna drag this as a weapon prefab. Or I guess in our case, the potato prefab. And now we can go into the game. Where's the potato? It's not here. Okay, I forgot to drag into the scene. There we go, there's the potato. And now we have a potato. We can pick up this potato. But where is it? I'm so confused. Where is the potato? Oh, why is it not following? Oh! Is it? Oh, okay, so it's because we still have our box collider and everything on it. We just gotta remove that. We also gotta delete this cube. And now, everything should finally work. So now if we go up to our potato, it's going to float up there, which is interesting. Oh, my bad. Okay, so we're saying the local transformation. So this should actually be coupled to the main camera. As you can see, it's like so, which we don't want. So we actually gotta drag this down a bit into the right place so that it actually looks like we're eating a legit potato. Yeah, I think that looks pretty convincing. It looks like a pretty convincing potato. I'm just gonna rotate this like so. And yeah, there we go, potato. And we're just gonna press override, or you know what, we're just gonna drag this in here. Actually, you know, we're just gonna delete this potato. Or you know what, we're gonna unpack the prefab. Oh my god, we're gonna delete this. I'm gonna rename this to be, whoops. I'm gonna rename this to be potato item. And then we're gonna drag it as a prefab, delete this, go in here and drag it back in. And now everything will work finally. So now, let's pick up our potato. And there we go. Yeah, potato. The icon doesn't look like a potato, but it's a potato. And now all we need to do is make sure that when we eat it, something happens. So we're gonna be creating a new bar called the saturation bar. And now what we can do is we can go into our canvas and go into our there we go, slider. Also, we should rename this to be health bar. And then we can just duplicate this and call this the saturation bar and turn it yellow because that's usually the color of the saturation bar. And then we add a script to it and then everything will be good. So change the fill to be just a slight yellow. And now when we press play, it all works. So now what we're gonna do is we're just going to go into our player manager, player data, and we're just gonna create a new thing. So we're gonna create, first of all, we're gonna create a public slider, saturation slider, public Xmesh Pro GUI, saturation text. And then we can scroll down here and scroll, and we can reach our stuff here. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to void update, and every 5 seconds, so let's create some new variables. We have private saturation int float saturation timer is equal to 0, and on void updates we're gonna say if saturation timer is less than or equal to 5 or 8, then what we're gonna do is we can say saturation timer plus equals time.delta time. So we're just gonna increase our saturation timer by the flow of time, and then we're gonna say else. So if it's been 8 seconds, then we're going to change saturation timer, or we're just going to set saturation timer to be 0, so the whole process doesn't happen again. And then we can just create some new variables here, and we can say right here, so we can say here public floats, oops, let's actually do it here, so we can say, oops, not there, public float max saturation, public floats max or current saturation. And then on void start we can just say saturation slider dot max value is equal to max saturation cur saturation is going to be equal to max saturation just for now before we have a save system implemented. And then for our saturation slider value, we're going to set it to be current saturation. And then we're going to set saturation text dot text is going to be equal to saturation current saturation dot toString f0, which formats it so that there's no decimals, plus that, and then we're going to set it to be plus max saturation dot toString without decimals. So yeah, everything works. So oh god. So now what we can do is we can scroll down here and should be able to literally just, yeah, so now if we go into our update function, we're just going to set saturation current saturation minus equals random dot range 1 and 2, or actually 0 and 2, 1 and 2, and then let's make this 15 seconds, and then basically what can happen is yeah, that's pretty much it actually. Oh yeah, also we have to set the saturation slider dot value is going to be for the current saturation, and then current saturation slider dot value is equal to current saturation. Okay, so yeah, everything works. So now if we go into Unity, we can just drag in all the values that we're missing, and everything will be great. Yep, so you can see here, we have our values here. So we're just going to drag in our newly created slider as well as our text to be right here, and our max saturation will be at 100. And now when we press play, you can see that we have 100 out of 100. So let's just wait 18 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm probably gonna put a meme here or something to pass the time. I don't know. Yeah, 12, 13. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, so the only thing missing is that we have to set our saturation text. But then, yeah, so we know that the lowering our saturation works. And yeah, so now what we have to do is we're gonna have to create a food script. So we're gonna go into our C# script, and we're gonna create a food script. And we're gonna make it so that we attach this to the potato, and on void update, if input.get key down key code dot left mouse or mouse 0, then we're going to eat get key. Then we're going to make the eating. So what we're going to do is public. We're going to create a new float. So we're just going to say public float eat timer is equal to 0. So when we hold down the left mouse button, eat timer is going to add by time.delta time. And then if we lift our key up key code.mouse 0, and we're going to set each timer to be 0. And we're going to create a new slider in the middle, and we're going to call it public slider. So we're going to have to say using Unity engine.ui engine.ui. We're going to create a new slider called eat slider. And when we hold it down, we're going to say eat slider dot set active true, and when we lift our mouse, it's going to be false. And we're going to set eat slider value is going to be equal to each timer, and then we're going to say if each timer is greater or equal to, let's say we can create another float called each time is equal to 5, let's say. If it's greater than each time, then we're just going to set our potato to, get destroyed. And on our key down, what we can say is we can just set each sliders to max value to be equal to each time, and also each timer to be 0. And now, yeah, so if we do have each timer is greater than our each time, being greater than our each time, then what we can say is we can just basically, I guess we can just delete the potato, right? So we can just say destroy potato game object. I don't know why I typed potato there. Also, I believe there is a way to reload the hotbar, so I'm just gonna find that in the player data. So I'm just gonna also call the player data, so we're gonna say private player data. So we're going to have to import the namespace, of course we do. So we can just import that namespace here. And we can say private player data, and on void start, we can say data dot is equal to find object of type player data, and basically this just finds the references in the script in the scene with the player data script. And basically what we can just do now is we can say data dot reload hotbar. Yeah, I don't know. Actually, what we can do is we can say we can create a new function here, because if we reload the hotbar before we destroy the object, nothing's going to happen, because first of all, we destroyed the object before we call the function, so the function can no longer be called because there's no more object to call it. So we have to create a function here that invokes void late update hotbar, and basically this function will invoke the reload hotbar function after we input the parameter of how long we want it to delay by. So what we can say here is we can just say data dot late update hotbar 0.1 after 0.1 seconds, or maybe 0.25, just to be safe. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now what we have to do is we have to create our slider. So we can just actually just copy this, and we just put this in the middle. Oops, not the event system, the saturation bar. And we just put this in the middle, right there. Our UI is becoming quite cluttered. We might have to do edit the layout soon, because it is becoming really cluttered. We can just delete this. We renamed this to be eating bar. And what we can do here is we can just delete the fill, and then we can set this color to be gray or white, or not white, but let's make it black. You know what? Let's make it pure white. And then yeah, so what we can do is, since we're not going to be able to get the reference for our eat slider, what we're going to do is we're going to make it private, and we're going to make a reference to it in our player data. So we can say public slider eat slider, and then we can say here that eat slider is going to be equal to data eat slider. So now we can go back into Unity, let that compile, and go into our player, and we can drag in our eat slider, which is going to be this one. Oops, not that one. Where's our eat slider? They're right there. Okay. And then we can go into our prefabs for our potato. Should be right here. And we can drag in our newly made eating script,
food script. And also, we should probably set this eating bar to be not active. And on our potato, what we can say is we can say eat timer is, yep, like so, and eat time, yep. So everything matches up. We're gonna apply this to the prefab. Now we can press play, and we're, okay, my bad. We don't want this here, because that is the ground item. We want it here, inside of our beautiful potato. So we're just gonna drag the food script here. And now, when we press play, nothing will happen when we click. Nothing will happen if it's not, if we're not equipping it, but if we do equip it, it's going to be like so. And then, once we reach the max, it's going to delete itself. And yeah, so, okay. Couple things that's not working. One, this function's not working, so I'm gonna try doing it after 1 second. Also, the eat slider's not being set as not active, which is not good. So, yeah, so we have to. Why is this? Oh, sorry, I made it true. So that should fix it. So yeah. So also, when we finish eating, this should be set to false. And also, what we can do is we can say player data dot get current equipped. So let's actually go into our, I believe we have an integer that stores which item we're currently equipped. So we can just say inside of our hotbar, we can say hotbar dot current equipped, or actually data dot hotbar, and then open and close box brackets, and then data dot current equipped. Yeah, we can just say data dot current equipped, and then we're just going to set it to be equal to null, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So now if we go back into the game, it should work. That should work. Alright, yeah, so it works, and it gets destroyed after a while in the hotbar, so yeah, everything works. And this will be pretty much it for this video. In the next video, we'll make it so that when you eat, you can hear your saturation bar, and maybe a little bit of your health as well. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I'll see you in the next video.